So my name is Sven Christian. I'm a writer, editor, and curator based in South Africa.
I'm Thembinkosi Goniwe, artist, curator, and scholar based in South Africa, but currently teaching at Rhodes University.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what your experience has been like since we've been here. I think yesterday, we've been here for a week and we've been going to different sites around Qatar, and the first time we visited the collection, it's one thing seeing artworks online. I think we're quite used to sort of scrolling through images on Google and so on, but it's a different experience coming in and seeing the work in person. And I think being able to situate it within the larger context of Qatar, Doha specifically, and one of the things that we were talking about yesterday during the discussion that was had at Liwan Design Studios, and you were talking about Mr. Mahlangu and her legacy and the importance of revisiting what modernism means in the context of South Africa. I know that you've had a particular interest in modernist works in this collection, but I'm just curious about how that's sort of grown or changed since you from seeing them online to seeing them in person here, or what stood out for you?
Of course, there's a difference, slight as it is, or radical as it is, when you look at artworks online, when you see artworks in pictures, copies, than when you see the actual thing. I think that experience cannot be underestimated to see the real thing. So that's one of the takes for coming here to see these artworks. The scale, the textures, the surface, and that has been really great because now I have a better sense of the nature of these artworks. And that also helps me because initially my project involves two things. One is to curate the exhibition, and two is to work with the publication of these artists. So now I have a better sense of what kind of exhibition I can begin to think about in terms of space, what kind of space we need, or what size of the space, because most of the work in the collection are intimate. So these are not huge works. So the small scale, it invites this intimate relation of the work. And I found that really profound. So in other words, this has been really great. And I'm happy that I came to see the collection and to spend a little time with it. Of course, there will be other opportunities to engage with the work, but for now, I have something to work with the project, and also I'm grateful also to have seen the works, so that I can also begin to think about the publication, what kind of publication, in terms of layout, in terms of scale of the dimensions of the publication. I want a small, I want a big book, thick book, thin book. So to see the real thing helps to kind of work on those thoughts and the decisions to make. So yeah, in short, I think it has been really an important trip, and perhaps I should also turn the question around, because we've been here at the same time, and as you said, we went to see exhibitions, we had 2 talks and all of that. What has been your take and what you make of the trip?
I mean, one of the standouts for me, and one of the things that I actually feel like I knew before coming here, just from prior exposure to the collection of mine, was that there are a range of artists in this collection that I don't know, and that for me is a really appealing aspect because it's just a case of opening worlds to me and constantly. I think the scope of the collection too, in terms of the range of artists from different generations and so on. It's largely, paintings, prints, two-dimensional works. There's a huge depth and breadth to the collection, and I guess one of the things that's really exciting about it is the possibility to be involved in a project that is developing or directly engaged in trying to build on knowledges and locate artists in particular traditions or ways of working, to understand the connections that exist between different practices. And like in the conversation that came up about the importance of laying claim to, like, in terms of one's artistic heritage and legacy, of I guess creating a kind of core or stable base for the study and interpretation and analysis of art from the continent and different parts of it. Yeah, it's been interesting for me to go to all of these big exhibitions and see all of these really big names and stuff on the walls, and the dynamic between those kind of spaces and this collection and where these artists have been working and making, and the sort of various levels of investment that are made.
Let me pick up on one point you made about the collection is not just limited to one country, but of artists' work that are from different parts of the continent. I think that is important also to think about, because of course my project is focused on South Africa, but it was great to see the other works in the collection that provide possibility in thinking of, for example, comparative approaches, in thinking of parallels, in thinking of context, and the kind of creative approaches, uses of material techniques that are coming out of these different countries, are explored by different artists. Some are contemporary, some are, the time between them is different, some overlap. So that has been also like a good take from being here. And it also helps as one writes, for example in my case, South Africa, but also you write it in the context of the continent and the developments that are taking place in other countries. So I think that is really great. And one has to appreciate the efforts and also the work that one is doing in putting such a collection, as well as opening up to curators, and to writers. In other words, while he is collecting the artworks and bringing them here, but also is gifting it back not only to the continent, but also to the world that is artist. Sooner than later will be seen, will be read, the exhibition that will be curated, around the world, the text that will be circulating around the world will also offer these artists that needed, required engagement and appreciation. So do you want to say something?
Well, it's just on that. I think the institutional collaborations and networks that are also forming simultaneously, like via the arts writing workshop in Osaka that you're going to be running, or the one that was at 32 Degrees East in Kampala, or Windhoek. There's a I think we were talking about David Kolowane's essay around the 1995 Joburg there now, and the need for creating those points of connection with our immediate neighbors before, that to create a kind of stable base, and it feels like there are steps towards that being made, which are appealing for me. When we went to Qatar Museum and we saw the exhibition, I forgot what it's called, but the one of art from Pakistan that delves around the partition of 1947 and some of the early modernist works that we looked at in the first section. I remember us having a discussion about the texts and how a lot of these artists had been traveling to, say, Paris or New York or wherever it was, but that perception that they would then be bringing stuff back as opposed to influencing, it was always, the direction was always that, whereas I feel like this collection has that sort of tension in terms of its influence and reach in different parts of the world when these exhibitions start to happen.
Yeah, one other point perhaps to add is the importance of borderless Africa, which is part of the current debate, not only pertaining to visas, but also dialogues, conversations, collaborations, and I think the collection, the nature of the collection is always already that. It offers that. And this is not something new, right? Because we can trace it back, for example, to the efforts of the likes of David Goniwe and Sven, who after setting to Pelo, they took it upon themselves also to travel to other parts of the continent, Zimbabwe, Zambia, you name it, to set up similar workshop where artists can also travel to those two intense workshop of exploring, experimenting, so that new forms of making, new expression, new aesthetic inclination can be discovered, can be experimented with. So these collections somehow speak to that for me, that needed way of crossing borders, of artists of different parts of the continent, sharing space, exchanging ideas. And that's what also the young writers are doing, the fellows, and also the curators, pairing artists, curating thematic and also cross-border exhibition. I found that exciting. And another point also to recognize is, here we are in Qatar, specifically in Doha, and the collection is here. It also connects the continent, even if the collection focuses intently on the Sub-Saharan. But now we are also, participating in the Middle East, in the Mediterranean. So in other words, these are the forms of reconnections that the anti-colonial leaders, artists, intellectual activities, including the post-colonial actors, have been calling for, so that Africa is part of the world and the world is part of Africa. And I think this collection does that very well in its small, but intimate and really intent ways in which it is unfolding. So that is exciting to think about. And perhaps also you should also say something, because I believe you will be responsible for the curatorial aspects of the collection. What are your thoughts having been here of your role as a curator, right?
I don't know if that's for this. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've seen maybe 30% of the collection at this point, right, in terms of the work. There's a whole lot more for me to see, and when it comes to engaging with the work and spending time with it on a more intimate level, I think given the scope of this collection, it requires a much larger community. Again, I don't think anyone could get to like a point of understanding when it comes to this collection to say, I know the collection, I now am the sort of, what's that movie? Minority Report. When it comes to curatorial practice. I think there's a lot of like, in terms of the role, I think it's to facilitate opportunities for people to engage with the collection in meaningful ways, as a constant sort of inquiry or an inclination towards a constant sense of curiosity about the work and being open to the various worlds that the artwork can open up for us going forward. So, that's the exciting part for me. And it's tied into the general structure of ARAK because, as you say, it's not just the collection, it's the fellowships, it's the art writing workshops. And I think that is the sort of defining feature of this collection when it comes to its approach to the world and to not just collecting, but trying to think of another word that can describe a sense of something that's burgeoning, something rather than like a sense of like hoarding. It's more of more of an outward orientated approach. It's not about that. Yeah.
If I hear you correctly, I stand for correction. What you are gesturing towards, or you're implying, is that the collection of the sense of mushrooming out. So it's not something that is moving inward; it is moving outward. Which I agree, without repeating what we've said about the fellows, writers, curators, but also just us being here, the activities that stem from the existence of the collection. So we are here to look at the collection, but also the activities that we were fortunate to embark on, as visiting museums, meeting people, giving talks. So the condition gives possibility for extended networks, right? It also gives possibilities for discourse, for dialogues, the two talks. So we met people at these two institutions. We engaged with them. We shared our thoughts. They in turn shared their thoughts. So that's what the collection does. So it's not just a storehouse. So it is a springboard for other development. And I'm sure, there will be more as the conversation and as the process unfolds.